Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome, as always, to an impromptu video from a very pleasant Boscombe, a borough of Bournemouth. Hope everybody's doing fine. Hope everybody's had a nice weekend. I have, thank you very much. I'm actually quite excited and anxious and tense and all those good things, though, in a positive sense, because my daughter's coming over from Germany tomorrow, so I'll be spending time with her for a good couple of weeks, and also my girlfriend, also from London, is coming down, and we're going to disappear into the countryside of Blighty. So I thought I would put out a quick video before I'm occupied with other things, although I do want to do a couple of videos from the area where we're going to be, because I think there might be some good, interesting old architecture and old buildings to look at and maybe discuss, but that's for another day. Here in Boscombe, I thought I would just sort of get the phone out and film, first of all because the sky looks tremendous today. Those who know, but if you take a look at this, excuse the wind, by the way, I'm trying to cup my hands as best I can, but it is quite windy. But this is how your clouds and your sky should look on a sunny day. Not humid, no intense, radiant feeling heat from within or anything like that. No weird feelings to go with it, no headaches, no feelings of nausea, no respiratory issues. Just a nice south coast summer's day with a bit of wind, some clouds and a sun shining, and nobody's cooking, nothing at all, and the air is lovely and clear. This is how it should be, exactly this. So screenshot these pictures here, use them as your screensavers, blow them up into massive big posters and stick them on your walls, whatever, but this is becoming ever more rare, ladies and gentlemen. Don't take my word for it, just look out your window every now and then, or look up when you're walking along the street. But don't look up too much, because otherwise you'll miss all the old world buildings beneath your feet. So there's a conundrum going on there, and that's another story. Right, so the reason why I was going to do this now is because I wanted to have a little sort of chat and a ponder, really. And, you know, I'm at the cricket pavilion in Boscombe, and of course cricket pavilion is right opposite what's called the Vitality Stadium. It's actually Dean Court. It's the home of Bournemouth Football Club, who have always been based in Boscombe. They used to be called Boscombe before they got rebranded, but they've always been here, from here. Anyway, they are, as you can see here, building and expanding, because this stadium, where I've worked for many years, not recently, not the last couple of years I haven't, but before that for a good 7 years, this stadium used to only hold 11,000 or so people, between 11 and 12,000, right? And that brings me actually to what I really want to talk about, which is, and I mentioned this to my sister many moons ago, that football in general has become sort of the microcosm of the world itself, right? The more I talk about it a little bit, the more you'll understand why I say that. But, you know, this kind of proves, like, if you think about where Bournemouth Football Club are in the rankings of professional football in England, they are in the top. They finished in the top 6 last season, I think. Anyway, enough to play in Europe this coming season, which a team that I support, Everton, I've been trying since the inception of football itself, it feels like, right? So the point I'm making there is that the football world, just like our world, is already structured and framed and scripted is the wrong word to use, but let's just say set up in such a way that it achieves certain outcomes, right? Always. Now, and if you think about football as a sport, association football, that's where, by the way, the word soccer comes from. You can win a pint with this little bit of quiz knowledge. Where does the word soccer come from? Well, soccer is actually an English expression, it's not an American expression, just to get rid of that myth, right? And soccer comes from the word association. They used to call rugby rugger, and they used to call football a soccer. So if you look at association, the word, the first few letters of that would be ASOC, and they just pronounced it as soccer, dropped the A, and that's it. That's where the word soccer literally comes from. And of course in America they've adapted that because their style of football, which ironically makes very little use of feet, of course is called football. But anyway, so much for that. But that's where the word soccer comes from. It is an English word. It's nothing to do with the Americans at all. So before everybody gets on their high horse and it's football, not soccer, nah, it's both. And it's all cool. And who cares anyway? But anyway, yeah, the Football Association here in England is, of course, the oldest football association in the world. And it was formed on the 26th of October, 1863. Right, which when you do your numerology is all the nines. The number 9 is exceedingly important to those who run our world and our realm. Don't be asking me why. It is all researchable. It really is all researchable. It's taken me a few years, but bit by bit you get there. The 3s, the 6s, the 9s, all those sorts of numbers, they're very, very important. As are double numbers, and they call them master numbers, 11, 22, 33, the main one. That's the main master number. That's your Red Lodge, 33 degrees, where you have initiations galore before you get to that point. And the less said about that, the better, because my daughter watches these videos. But anyway, it was invented or put to paper and let's say implemented as an association, as an institution in 1863, the 26th of October 1863, which are all the 9s, etc., etc., in the Masonic or the Freemasonic Hall in Covent Garden. The building is still there to this day, right? Now, it doesn't really matter whether something was drawn up in an official Masonic Hall or an unofficial Masonic Hall, because all of our old world buildings, so-called, that were allegedly built in the 1860s, 1870s or whatever, they are all repurposed, restored Masonic constructions, right? It all starts with Freemasonry, all of it, everything that makes our society exist is a Freemasonic construct, I should say, and we are born into it. People have to understand that. We didn't start as cave people. We didn't start printing red handprints on the inside of walls and go, oh, a bit of colour and you can actually paint. Oh, ooga ooga. And then we went on and then what? Started languages, walked around with clubs, couldn't speak, whatever. I mean, the actual backstories of how we are supposed to have all, come to be in the first place and all that, it's all absolute nonsense, all of it, right? All debunkable, to use an online expression. And it's all researchable, all of that. Of course, you don't Google it. If you're going to Google things, you're going to get what the mainstream want you to see, right? So when people tell me they've done some research and all they've done is they've asked Gemini or they've Googled some or whatever, right? It's like, what are you doing? AI is nothing but a super quick search engine. That's all it is, right? Nothing intelligent about it. And yeah, people now think what? They're gaining knowledge. another Pied Piper move that's working quite nicely, right? But anyway, getting back to this, slight tangent there. Yeah, so it doesn't really matter what sort of building, anything was laid to be. Like the police, for example. There's another example of an organisation, and of course their Masonic origins and roots are worn in their uniform in the form of black and white checkered bits and bobs around their hats, or with the ladies it's the, what would you call it, the tie, neckerchief kind of thing that they wear on the top of the shirts. I mean, I nearly joined the police when I left college, so I never added two and two together. I do know from very, very reliable sources that once you've gone beyond certain levels of rank in the police, you're almost obliged to join the Brotherhood, as they call it, right? I mean, you can opt to remain outside of that, but, we all know what that would mean. It would mean not necessarily being an advantage to you, right? So, anyway, before I walk too far that way, But yeah, I just wanted to sort of tie that in, and it's quite interesting because football today has become more and more of a commercial beast, right? I've been dropping a few hints as to what's going on there with my recent posts. You know, all the Masonic hand signals from all the players now when they score goals. Literally all of them do it, especially in the top leagues. Any leagues with coverage, TV coverage that goes out to the masses, right? All the, you saw it in the Football World Cup. I mean, it was quite fun to listen to all the conspiracy theories. See, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I observe things, and if they don't fit with what I'm told, I ask questions. It's that simple. That's not a conspiracy theorist. I don't theorize about things. I don't say what could be. I say what I see, and I give my take on what I think is creating the anomaly, or giving ideas towards that. But you won't ever hear me sitting here or standing here or walking or whatever and speculating. Speculation is for fools. Gets you absolutely nowhere and will, in the long term, make you an exceedingly dissatisfied person and feel quite hollow inside, because you realise very quickly it's all superficial nonsense. The real deal takes time and vigilance and discernment and honesty and courage. Nothing to do with theorising about conspiracies. That's total nonsense. But again, any opportunity to mock those who dare to point out the obvious, as like in the last 6 years or so, but that's another story. Yeah, so anyway, getting back to the football, I keep going off on a tangent, I do apologise. So yeah, and like Bournemouth have 11,000, but yet as in spectator capacity, and yet, or 12,000, and yet they can comfortably mix it in the Premier League where, your top teams have got 74,000. Everton have just built a stadium, a new one with 53,000. Anfield keeps getting expanded, that's Liverpool, that's Everton's neighbours. They'll be over 70,000 in a few years. Manchester City are expanding their ground, etc, etc, etc. Tottenham have got a new one, Arsenal have got a big one, Sunderland, Newcastle have got good sized stadiums, etc, right? But remember what happened a few years ago when we had the lockdowns and they played behind closed doors. And what did they do, the channels? Well, I remember it because I watched it. They played behind closed doors, there were no fans, and what they did was, after a couple of match days, they started introducing artificial fan noise for the TV viewer. So if there was a corner, they'd play in it was like sitcom applause and stuff in the background, and it was really strange right at the beginning, but you know what, after a few matches, you got used to it. And then clubs started doing stupid things, and people, obviously more stupid, they were entertaining it, but then everybody was so feared up that they would have done anything you asked them to anyway at that time. But then everybody was invited to send their photos for a small fee, and then you get a life-size cardboard cutout of your head plonked on your seat in the stadium that the camera would then catch every now and then if the ball went out for a call or whatever, right? And so, for me, they were clearly prepping, carrying all that out for just a TV audience, right? Which, just like, by the way, all the rituals, or what they call the opening ceremonies and all the other things that went on in the World Cup, they were mainly for TV audiences, right? If you were in the stadium yourself, watching the half-time show, whatever it was of the World Cup final, you would have been very disappointed. That was all for the TV audience. That's where your billions are, not in the stadium. And it's the same with this, getting back to football here. Yes, they're expanding this, because otherwise it would be a bit too much of a giveaway, I would suggest. And not just that, Bournemouth are growing in popularity, and they'd like to obviously offer a larger stadium for fans to go and watch them live, absolutely. But big stadia are not a necessity at all, right? Gate receipts, money they bring in just from people's tickets. Well, a lot of them are sold before the season anyway, because a lot of people buy season tickets, which covers the season. But gate receipts don't cover not even one top player's wages. You know what I mean? It's a fraction of what a Premier League club needs to survive, but not just survive, but actually invest just to stand still. And this is one of those clubs, Bournemouth Football Club, right? I mean, I closed that circle in a very, very long-winded way. I do apologise, but but it's all tied in with each other. There'll be a greater plan of all of this anyway. You know, like everything else in life, there is a roadmap laid out, not for you or for me to see, but for us to move around on, and be maneuvered around on. You know, and you can maneuver people in many ways, from climate control all the way down to I don't know, you know, messing with transport systems and goodness knows what, throwing down roadworks all over the place that aren't being worked on half the time. They're just there to inconvenience, or do what they do in Germany now and make sure all your trains are late and stuff like that. Anything to irritate the public, or maybe talk lots of nonsense and add fuel to an immigration fire. Another Masonic construct, by the way, right? So yeah, I just wanted to bring that to you because, you know, fans in all of this, by the way, are the ones that are coming short, right? Because they're the ones who have to pay £6.50, for example, in Everton Football Club's new stadium in a city that isn't as affluent as London, right? £6.50 for a donut, things like that, you know. And fans complain, but it just disappears into the ether, as it were, right? No one hears about it. You know, ticket prices have gone up, this, that, and the other. And then you go into a stadium when you think to yourself, especially me as an Everton fan, for example, just to use that club as an example, they haven't been competitive for over 30 years. They've managed to stay in the top flight of English football, hang around there, but they've never been competitive. They've never won anything. They've just kind of existed. Everton are like the England of English club football. They live off their past successes back in the 10th century. And then, you know, there's hype, and then everyone gets disappointed. And, yeah. But I think there's something way deeper going on. You know, because the rise of a club like Bournemouth, for example, exemplifies that point perfectly, right? This club have only been mixing it in the top flight for about 10 years altogether. And they've even went down in that time for a couple of seasons and came back up again. And yet they're playing in European football next season. They finished in the top 8 or the top 6. And they are expanding as a club, and they're expanding as a presence in the town and in the region and stuff like that. So a small club like this, Bournemouth, coming from an area that doesn't have a massive footballing, what's the word? History, if you like. There's no industry here. It's not an industrial hotbed or anything like that, like the north of England or the Midlands or whatever, or even London or whatever, or the northeast, right? This is pretty much from scratch, really. So anyway, yeah, watch this space. But yeah, and not just because I was filming or wanted to show you this, which is of course a building site. Apparently, according to the chap in there, he said this will be finished in 4 weeks. I think it would take them 4 weeks to clear this bleeding car park. But anyway, whatever. I'm glad that ain't my responsibility. But yeah, and I know I'm flip-flopping a bit backwards and forwards, but I think some of that is my excitement as well of the next couple of weeks to come, because yeah, it'll be my first opportunity to be able to spend a prolonged amount of time with my partner and with my daughter. So that for me is a huge moment. A huge moment. It means a lot to me. I'm all nervous about it, and I'm all a little bit sort of, you know, trying to stay calm around it, but not for any negative reason, just, you know. Yeah, so that's where I'm at the moment, really, when I'm not thinking about this sort of stuff. Then of course I think about always my nearest and dearest, you know, my parents, my sister, family, my daughter, my partner, and all those that are attached, you know. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and if the weather's going to be anything like this, then we're in for a treat. So Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to bring that to you. There was a bit sort of here and there and all over the place, right? But I think I made a couple of valid points in there. At the end of the day, right, the point I was going to make about like football being a microcosm of the world, fans, just like we do in the world, essentially pay for their misery, right? They do. They pay for their misery. They partake, don't they? They acquiesce. And that's the thing. And you hear a lot of people complaining, but nothing gets done. Why? Because they still continue to do it. It's like in the real world, as it were, everybody whinges about politics and about Starmer and about the geezer now. It doesn't matter, the geezer now, the geezer then. We've had 7 prime ministers in 10 years in this country, and that's not waking people up to the fact that it's just all one big dog and pony show, and that they are not in charge of anything at all. Any other organisation that changed their leaders out that regularly would struggle to function correctly, wouldn't they? Mind you, they'd struggle to function correctly with them in, never mind with them out. But anyway, yeah, that's another topic altogether. But yeah, people say they know, and yet they still go out and vote. Explain that to me. I've never understood that. Best thing to do is not go out and vote. I'm not saying do or don't, but I'm just saying, if you know that it's all kind of, what's the word? Scripted, if you like, and you're aware of the idea, not the idea, but the fact that leaders are selected and not elected, then why would you continue to partake in that theatre? Questions that people really ought to be asking themselves. Seriously. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to start making my way back, and in fact I'll walk along here across this road. Yeah, I will leave it there, and I will see you all soon. Some of you much sooner. Until then, take it all easy. Thank you as always for listening in to whatever it is I was rambling, and I'll see you all again very soon. Ta-ta for now.